In this demo, we're going to take a look at how to begin using and testing the class that we've been building up. But before we do that, a word about where we've been and a couple things I've neglected to mention in the earlier related demos. If you remember, in one of our earlier lectures, we talked about an incremental development paradigm. And at each step of the way, we were going to make some changes, then snapshot off those changes to a saved file, like so. In case we made any mistakes, we could always backtrack to an earlier version that worked. Well, we've been doing that, I just haven't been pointing that out. But this is our current live development version of Person, and if we go back in time, this is what we started out with, our skeleton structure, and it was snapshotted off to PersonPhase1. In PersonPhase2, we added an instance variable. PersonPhase3, we added 2 overloaded constructors. In PersonPhase4, we added a couple of display methods. And that takes us to the current version that we have here in the Person class. So I'm going to go ahead and close all these other versions, but I just wanted to point out that you should get in the habit of saving your changes off like this, because it gives you a safety net in case some development goes bad and you can always back up. So now we've got the beginnings of this class, and what we're going to do is the following. At the end of our file, we're going to add some unit test code, and all that's going to be is our standard familiar main method, and it'll serve as the test driver for all the code that we're writing in this class. So it's simply going to be the standard public static void main string bracket bracket args closing parenthesis open closing curly braces. And in fact, let's save this and compile it. Yeah, we're good, no mistakes. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to tack on this main method to the end of our code, and the idea is that as we add some capability to our class, we should immediately add some corresponding test code in this main method, and we can build and test as we go along. So for example, we've added 2 constructors. Let's test both of them by making objects of each type. Here's one with a default constructor in the usual manner. Person P1 equals new person. And then we'll also do person P2 equals new person, but we'll use the full constructor, which takes our sole instance variable to date as its input, and then we want to be able to see these. So as always, let's use the implicit toString with the name of this object and print it out. And for good measure, let's also use the standard print method and also the overloaded print, which takes a message. So let's say default constructor person is something like that. So let's save this, compile it, run it, and here's the class that we've built to this point. This output is from this implicit toString. This output right here is from this basic version of print, and this output here is from this overloaded version of print. So we've exercised our default constructor, and we've exercised all 3 display methods that we've created. So let's do the same thing. And what you'll notice when you're building your code a lot of times is that if you create something once, you can often leverage that through cut and paste to test something else. So for example here, the only thing that's changed is the name of the object, and maybe this title. Let's save that, compile it, run it, and here we have our next set of outputs. So what we've done here is we've implemented some test code for what we've built so far, and we can always go back to this and retest our file as we add things to make sure that we haven't broken things. And as we add to this, I would also encourage you to get in the habit of making this very readable. Add blank lines and do whatever you need to so that you can easily follow the output that is going to get dumped out here. But the idea here is from this point forward, whenever we add a method or a capability to our class, we should turn around and add some corresponding test code to exercise that new capability. This is a build a little, test a little approach, which will pay big dividends in efficiency and lessen frustration. Trust me on this. Now, the key thing to remember is that this main method test code is completely separate from the rest of this class code, and we can't directly access the instance variables or methods of the class above. Watch what happens if we try. For example, suppose we did something like this. Suppose we tried to access the print method directly, save that, compile it, compiler error. We can't get to that non-static method print from this static method. Same thing if we try to print out, let's say, our instance variable first name. We already know that this one doesn't work. Let's save this, try to compile it. Same kind of problem. So this is the test code side, and this is the class side, and you can't get to the instance variables and methods directly within main. You can only access them through created objects of the person type. So that's just something important to keep in mind. People sometimes tend to forget about that as they're writing their test code. But also, if you write your test code incrementally as you add capability, you'll find that it's very easy to keep this up, and you can always rerun this as you need to as you add capability. Okay, so from this point forward, we'll add test code as we add capabilities, and also, as we said, we're going to snapshot this off to, actually let me clean this up here first. I'll save that, test compile it, it's good, and then what I'll do is I'll do a save as, and I'll save that off as a PersonPhase5 snapshot. It doesn't have that name in the class. That's okay. I'll save it anyway. And now we have this saved off version in case we make any mistakes and have to back up. Okay? So this is how we'll go about testing our class as we go forward.